Hi, when you're creating views with Django, you can choose between function-based views and class-based views. But which is best? Want to use which, and what is my favorite? Keep watching to learn more. My favorite is just sticking with regular function-based views. This is a great strategy, and if you just stick to function-based views, that's a good choice. But sticking with classes is also a great option if you like it. So hopefully you will learn a little bit about both of them in this tutorial, and then you can try them both yourself. So in this tutorial I will cover both of the different types of views, and then you can choose yourself what you like best. But let's dive in and do some coding. First I want to create a virtual environment, virtual env, to do example _env, just so I know that this is the environment folder. Then I go into it. And then I can activate it by saying source bin activate. Great. Now we need to install Django. Pip install Django. This will also install a few dependencies that Django has. And when that's ready, we can create a new Django project. Django-admin start project to do example. Now we can go into it, so we are in the root folder. And now I also have it up here. We also need a Django app for this project, so I can create it by saying python manage.py start app to do. And now it popped up here. Before I continue, I just want to register it with the Django installed apps. So inside the list of installed apps, I just append to do. So now Django knows that this exists. And then we can continue by creating a model for the tasks or the to-dos. Class to do models.model, and I want a description equals models.char field, max length can be set to 255, and I want one field for checking if the task is set to done or not. So is done equals models.boolean field, default this to false, so we don't have to set it to false when we create a new task. So now we can save this and we can initialize and set up the database. Python manage.py make migrations and Python manage.py migrate. So now everything there is okay. So in this tutorial I want to begin with the function-based views, so we'll see them first. So if I go into to-do views.py, just remove this comment. And first I can import the model we just created from .models import to do, and also want to import two more shortcuts from Django, redirect and reverse. I'm going to use them later. And then we can create the view for showing the list of to-dos, def to-do list, pass in the request parameter as usual. And first here I want to check if you have submitted a form so we can create new tasks. If request.method is post, then we get the description from the form. Request.post.get description. If description, just check that the user has filled this out. To do.objects.create description equals description. So now a new to-do has been created, and we can redirect the user back to the front page. Return, redirect. So now we use the shortcut to-do list. And if it's not a post request, we want to get all of the tasks from the database. Object list equals to-do.objects.filter, and we only want to get the task that's set to is done equals false. So all of the tasks that's set to done will not be in this list. And then we just say return, render, pass in the request parameter, to-do/to-do list.html, and we need to pass in the object list. I could say to-do list, but this is the same default name as we are going to use later in this tutorial, so we just want to stick with object list for now. So now we can save this and we can import this view to URLs file from todo.views import to-do list path. When we're empty or the front page, we want to use this view, and the name is also to-do list, which is the one we are referring to here. So before we can test this now, we create a new folder for storing the templates, and in here one more folder, to do, and I want a very simple base.html file. So we can add a doc type, HTML, head, the title, to do example, body, block content, and the block, and save. And then we want to create a to-do list template, to-do list.html. And this file, I want to extend the base.html template, extends to-do/base.html. Then we use the block content, so we can put content inside there. First we can get a title, to do example, HR, H2, add to do. And below here we create a very simple form, method, post, action. We can set this to URL to do list, so it's the same page we are on. First we need a CSRF token, and then we can add a label, description, input type, text, name, description. Oops, this needs to be lowercase. And below this we have a button, submit. And below this form we want to list out all of the to-dos we have. So H2 to-dos and UL for to-do in object list. Object list is the one we get here. And for each of these items we say ally to-do.description. Now we need to close the end for loop and save. So now we should hopefully be able to run the server. Python manage py run server. Yes, everything seems to be okay. So I can copy this address and go to the browser. Yes, now I have the to-do example, add to-do and to-dos, but there are none to-dos yet. So I can say first to-do, submit, and now it's appended down here. Perfect. That means that also this is working. So now we want to make it possible to go in to see the detail view of a to-do. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to my Patreons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description below. So below this view we say def to-do detail request, and here I need a primary key, which is the ID of the to-do. Then we can get the to-do from the database by saying to-do equals to-do.object.get pk equals pk. pk stands for primary key, if you wondered. If request.method equals post, because we want to make it possible to update the status of the task. And if it is a post request, we know that we just want to set the to-do.isDone to true. And we can say to-do.save. So we only have the possibility to set it to done and not go back to do. And when that's done, we redirect the user, return, redirect, to do detail. And if it's not a post request, we want to show the page. So I can copy this, to do detail. And instead of saying object list here, we say to do like this. Great. Then we can create a template for this. To do detail.html. And I can just copy a little bit here. So here we say to do, and below the title we say strong status, so we can show the status of the task. To do.isDone, and instead of showing true or false, we can use a built-in filter called yes, no, done, to do. So instead of saying true or false, we say done or to do. This is built-in functionality in Django. Here we say to do.description. And if the status is not done, we want to show a button for marking the task as done. So if not to do.isDone, HR form method post action, can we set the URL to do detail, and then we pass in the to do.id, so it redirects back to the same page we are on. Add the CSRF token, and here we just say button mark as done, and if, and at the bottom here's href, so we can have a link back to the list URL and use the to do list back to list, and then we just need to close this and block and save. Now we need to import this here, so we append to do detail, and we can append it here, path int pk, because now we expect the integer called primary key, to do detail name to do detail, and save. So the last thing we need to do now before we test this is to change the description here to use a link. So href URL to do detail, pass in to do.id, which is the primary key, and then we can close the link after like that. And now refresh, I can go into here, I can set this to done, okay, no reverse match. Okay, now because I forgot to set which ID to use, but it's better to just return back to the to-do list like that. For now refresh, I'll be redirected back to the front page. So second to do, you can just add a few more. Third, great. Perfect, so now that is working. So this is how you basically use function-based views. So we have the request method in here, just check the post and you get the objects from the database and similar. So now I want to change this to use generic class views. We have a few different types of this, but we can begin with the generic ones. So up here we say from Django.views import list view. And I want to use a detail view, update view, and a create view. So we can begin with the to-do list view. So then we say class to-do list view, pass in list view instead of the request method. The model we want to use is to do, so we just say model equals to do and save. So if I now go back to urls.py, I can here say from todo.views import to-do list view. And instead of saying to-do list down here like this, I say to-do list view.s view and save. If I now go back and refresh, there is an error. Cannot import name list view. Sorry, now it's a little typo. This is about to Django.views.generic. These are reusable views type from Django. Refresh. And now it looks just the same. But now we don't have the post method as we have here. And we also get all of the to-dos. We can change the query set by saying query set equals todo.objects.filter is done equals true. Save. Refresh. So now we only get the one we set to done. If we set this to false, we get second and third because they have status set to false. Perfect. And now we need to implement this with the list, now with the create view. To do that, we say class to do create view, and then we pass in create view. We want to set model equals to do here as well. And the fields we want to create or use, need to create a list to show these fields equals description. And we need to set a function here, so called def get success URL self return reverse to do list. So when we pass in the post request here, this will be called automatically because this is a create view. And instead of using the default URL from Django, we want to use this URL. So if I now just go back to urls.py and say to do create view, and below here is a path add slash to do create view as view name to do create and save. And now we need to change the to do list here a little bit. Instead of saying to do list, we say to do create. Okay, so if I now refresh, you can say fourth, submit, and it was added here. Perfect. So instead of all of this code, we now only use this. So I could actually just remove the to-do list function now, save, and remove it from here so I don't import it. Great. So now we're back with the same functionality as we had with a little less code. So if you like this better than function-based views, you might want to read a little bit more about class-based views. So now I can create one more class-based view for the to-do detail. Class to-do detail view. Detail view. And here I need to set model equals to do and save. That's actually everything we need to do there. Append it here, and instead of saying to do detail here, we say to do detail view as view, because this automatically passes in the primary key, and this detail view expects the name to be pk. So if I now refresh, I can go into fourth and everything is okay as it was before. And the last thing we need to do now is to create an update view to implement this functionality. So it's a class to do update view, pass in update view, model equals to do, and the fields we want to update is fields equals is done, because we're not going to implement functionality for changing the description now. And I can copy this, but instead of saying to do list, I say to do detail, because I want to redirect back to the detail view. Kworks equals pk self.object.pk, and then I can actually just remove this, save, and then we just import this function as well in the URLs. I can remove this like that. I can copy this and say update to do update view. Oops, I need to change the name to do update. And the last thing we need to do now to test this, go to do detail and say to do update and save. If I now refresh, go to third, mark as done. Okay, the reason this isn't working is because in the function-based view we automatically set the field is done to true, but that doesn't happen here. So you need to change a little bit here. You need to pass in input type hidden, name is done, value true. So now this will be automatically fixed. So if I refresh now, like mark as done, you set this to done. Perfect. And that was the generic class-based views. And you also have normal views. So if I go back here now, go to the top, and here I say from Django.views import view. And I want to replace the to-do list view with a view like this. And then I need to specify the template name to use. Template name equals to-do/to-do-list.html. By the way, I forgot to mention that when you use a to-do list view, it automatically takes the app name, which is to-do, and append list. Therefore, it found the to-do list, and the same with to-do detail. It found the file to-do detail. You could also specify the name here if you want to use another name. Then I can remove this. And when we want to use the get functionality here, we say def get self request args kworgs. Looks a little bit Greek, this. And to get object list, say to-do.objects.filter is done equals false. So this is the same as we had done earlier. Return render request self.template name object list. And we can also change the post functionality here. Just say def post self request args kworgs. And then we get the description from the form. Description equals request.post.get description. Oops, like that. If description, check if the user has filled this out. We say to-do.objects.create description equals description. And then we just say return redirect to-do list. And then I can just remove this and save. So instead of using those two different views we have now one, but with multiple functions inside. So I can remove the create view, like that. And I need to change this to to-do list. So we post to the same page we are on, which will go in here. This should both be self. So if I now refresh, fifth, submit, and now it was added there. Perfect. And that was it for this video. I hope you now understand a little bit more about the differences between function-based views and class-based views. It's a little bit hard to know when to use which, but you can just try it out, both of them, and see which one you likes. But a thing to remember is that if you're going to use much functionality or multiple forms and similar, it's almost always better to just use function-based views. There's nothing wrong with just using function-based views. If you want to learn more about classes, I'll add a link to the documentation below. If you like this video, please click like below and subscribe if you want more content like this. See you in the next video.